This episode is brought to you by CuriosityStream, a subscription streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best filmmakers, including exclusive originals like Berlin 1945, time travel in cinematic style into the city's most fateful year through the eyes of those who experienced it, and Apocalypse Stalin, the rise of Stalin from bank robber to cold-blooded leader of the Soviet Union. Go to curiositystream.com/Mark Felton for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series. And for our fans, use the promo code Mark Felton and you will save 25% off, which comes to only $14.99 a year. That's just $1.25 per month. For the very best in history programming, choose CuriosityStream. Spitfire Mark 5B EN830, built at Castle Bromwich, made its first flight on the 30th of April 1942. In May, it was taken on the strength of No. 37 Maintenance Unit at RAF Burtonwood in preparation for frontline service, and in June 1942 joined No. 131 Squadron based in Wales at RAF Llanbedr. The Royal Air Force was operating a new type of mission in northwest France from South Coast bases, and No. 131 Squadron had relocated to RAF Westhampton to take part in rhubarb operations on the continent. What this involved was sections of fighters crossing the English Channel at low altitude, and then streaking across the French countryside, hitting targets of opportunity. Any German vehicles or military buildings were fair game to be strafed by the Mark 5Bs, two 20mm Hispano cannons, and four 303-inch machine guns. It was dangerous, as the pilots were exposed to German flak and ground fire from all sorts of weapons, not to mention patrolling German fighters pouncing down from higher altitudes. And there was also the problems of terrain, tall buildings, especially church towers and the like. Flying EN830 on one such rhubarb sortie on the 18th of November 1942 was Pilot Officer Bernard Scheidhauer, a Free French airman, accompanied by his compatriot Pilot Officer Henri de Bourdard, both of No. 131 Squadron RAF. The pair of Spitfires blasted across the English Channel, crossing into France at Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer, near Caen, then flew to Carentan, scene of heavy fighting between US and German troops less than 18 months later during the Normandy campaign, coming under fire as they shot up targets of opportunity. Scheidhauer's aircraft was hit by flak, and his wingman, de Bourdard, managed to fly back to England, while Scheidhauer struggled to nurse his aircraft back to the Channel coast. In a confused state, Scheidhauer mistook Jersey in the Channel Islands, the only bit of Britain occupied by the Germans, for the Isle of Wight off England's south coast, and made an emergency landing in a turnip field near the village of Trinity. Scheidhauer was less than pleased when locals arrived and informed him of where he actually was. Working fast, he tried to destroy the intact Spitfire, but due to battle damage, his fuel had all leaked away, and he couldn't burn the plane. Instead, he smashed as many of the instruments in the cockpit as he could, before a truckload of German soldiers turned up. Scheidhauer was taken prisoner, and the Germans were very happy. They had just received an intact Spitfire, and following some field repairs by Luftwaffe mechanics in Jersey, a German pilot flew EN830 to Germany. The aircraft still in RAF camouflage scheme, but with Luftwaffe crosses covering over the RAF roundels on the fuselage and wings, and black swastikas on the tail. Moved in stages under escort to Rechlin in Germany, where the Luftwaffe evaluated captured enemy aircraft, the plane's colour scheme was dramatically altered, its nose, underside and tail painted yellow, and the fuselage and wing tops dark green. The RAF code EN830 was also deleted, and the aircraft received the Luftwaffe designation CJZY. But the biggest changes were the removal of the Spitfire's guns and cannons and the loss of its Rolls-Royce Merlin 45 engine, replaced with a Daimler-Benz DB605A, the engine fitted to the Messerschmitt Bf 109, the Germans' equivalent fighter, changing the entire front end of the Spitfire, creating the world's one and only Messerspit. The plane was then moved to Echterdingen, where the Me 109's propeller and carburetor scoop were fitted. So why had the Germans created such an abomination? To test how the Spitfire performed powered by a 109's engine in comparison to the regular Messerschmitt 109. For 2 years, the Messerspit remained at the Daimler-Benz test facility, being evaluated. What the Germans discovered was that the Messerspit retained the Spitfire's superb handling characteristics, both on the ground and in the air, but now with increased engine power and with higher speed. Amazingly, this Frankenstein creation was actually superior to both the Spitfire and the 109. The Messerspit was able to attain a higher ceiling than the Spitfire or 109, measured at 12,700 meters, or about 41,500 feet. That was 1,000 meters, or 3,280 feet higher than the 109, and 1,475 meters, or about 5,000 feet better than the Spitfire Mark V. The aircraft's climb rate was also better than both of the regular aircraft. It does beg the question that if the Germans had managed to build Spitfires equipped with Daimler-Benz engines, would they have had the best fighter of World War II at that time? Thankfully for all concerned, the Germans did not have the blueprints to the Supermarine Spitfire, only a few captured examples and a few wrecks. These tests continued until the 14th of August 1944, the aircraft flying often against 109s. It was very popular among pilots who queued up to take the Messerschmitt airborne, often flying it off-duty as well. However, the Americans spoiled the fun for the Germans by bombing Echterdingen, wrecking the Messerschmitt. This unique experimental aircraft ended up on the scrap heap. Interestingly enough, post-war, the Spanish company Hispano license-built Messerschmitt 109s, known as the Bucon, and they were fitted with British Merlin engines, appearing in the 1969 film The Battle of Britain, and are of course regularly seen at air shows today. The question is, did the Germans ever try this during the war? I'd be interested to know. The final part of this story is unfortunately a sad one. Pilot officer Scheidhauer ended up in Stalag Luft 3 POW camp in Poland and took part in the famous Great Escape. Unfortunately, he was one of 50 Allied pilots murdered by the Gestapo following the escape. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon, details in the description box below.